One morning, you wake up. The light filters in through the blinds just like always. You stretch, turn to the side, and see the person you love still peacefully asleep next to you. And yet, something's missing. There's no spark in your chest. No quiet pull to reach out, to kiss their shoulder, to feel that familiar electricity. You don't feel broken. You're just not feeling anything at all. So you tell yourself, maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe this is what getting older feels like. And life keeps moving forward. Work deadlines, grocery lists, laundry, emails. You show up, do your part, hold conversations, even smile when you need to. But deep down, something feels absent, like you're no longer plugged into your own body. Like that current, the one that once made you feel fully alive, has gone quiet. Let's get this straight right now. You're not failing. You're not broken. And this isn't just about sex or performance. This is about life force. That inner vitality, libido, isn't gone. It's just being drowned out, whispered over by stress, by fatigue, by inflammation, by overstimulation and under-rest. What you're feeling isn't an accident. It's a message. Libido doesn't vanish because you turned a certain age. It doesn't disappear because you've been in a relationship too long or because something is wrong with your mind. It fades when your body starts trying to survive instead of thrive. And here's what nobody tells you. Your body is incredibly smart. When it's low on energy, when sleep is shallow and sugar is high, when your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight for weeks on end, your body starts shutting down non-essential functions. And libido, it's one of the first to go. Because desire isn't essential for survival, but it is essential for feeling alive. Here's the truth. Your desire is not something that needs to be fixed with a pill. You don't need testosterone injections or some flashy, expensive therapy. What you need is a gentle return to rhythm, a return to your breath, to your plate, to the sun on your skin, to the quiet hum of being in sync with nature again. Let's start with sleep. You can't have sustainable libido if your body isn't resting properly. Just 1 week of poor sleep can plummet key hormone levels. But this isn't about hours alone. It's about depth, about how your nervous system is constantly being jolted by late-night blue light, overloaded inboxes, constant cortisol spikes. And then there's food. When was the last time you ate something that actually nourished you? Not a protein bar? Not something in a box. I'm talking about real food. Fruit, nuts, avocado, colorful vegetables, whole grains. These are not diet tricks. These are chemical messages. Every bite tells your body either I'm safe, I can restore, or I'm under attack, shut it all down. Imagine starting your day with something as simple as a bowl of warm oats topped with sliced bananas, a few blueberries, chia seeds, and a drizzle of almond butter. That meal doesn't just fill you, it stabilizes your blood sugar, reduces inflammation, and sets the stage for balanced energy and mood. And balanced mood is where libido begins. Now, think about movement. You don't need to crush weights or sweat buckets, but you do need to move every day. Especially movements that engage the pelvic area and invite oxygen into your lower abdomen, like deep squats, pelvic bridges, and mindful hip openers. These movements restore circulation. They awaken sensation. They tell your body, I'm present, I'm listening. And speaking of presence, when was the last time you sat in silence and breathed deeply? Not the shallow, autopilot kind. I mean slow, intentional breaths that expand your belly and calm your heart rate. When you breathe like that, 10 minutes, eyes closed, no agenda, your cortisol drops. Your mind slows down. And guess what follows? Your awareness of desire, of self, of connection. See, libido doesn't need to be summoned. It needs to be allowed. It lives in the same place your laughter lives. In the same space where you once felt curiosity, touch, playfulness. And those things don't come back with force. They return when your body starts to trust you again. When you stop rushing through meals. When you stop skipping walks. When you stop falling asleep with your phone on your chest. It's not about restriction. It's about reconnection. The beauty of this is, you don't need anything outside of you. Not a product, not a prescription. Just a slow return to simplicity. Just the courage to ask, what have I been ignoring? Have you forgotten to go outside? Have you stopped dancing in the kitchen? Have you eaten anything that grew from the earth this week? You won't need to force desire. When your body feels safe again, it will invite it back. Slowly, softly, like sunlight creeping back into a darkened room. No one ever taught us that desire doesn't emerge in chaos. It doesn't blossom in pressure. It doesn't bloom in exhaustion. Desire, real desire, only arrives when the body feels safe. And today, most of us are living in systems that feel anything but. We tend to think of stress as something dramatic, a major life event, a loud crisis, something that knocks us down. But the real stress, the stress that slowly silences libido, is quieter. It's 1,000 tiny fragments, late-night notifications, scrolling through bad news, skipped meals, overbooked calendars, and sleeping under the hum of a screen still glowing at 1 a.m. Your body was never designed to handle this constant background noise, and when it can't keep up, it enters survival mode. Fight or flight. The sympathetic nervous system, built to protect you from danger, becomes your default setting. And when that happens, the body begins reallocating energy away from what it considers non-essential. Rest, digestion, deep sleep, and yes, sexual desire. Not because you don't deserve pleasure, but because your body is trying to protect you. This isn't failure. This is adaptation. Beautiful, intelligent, biological adaptation. But it also means that you can't force your libido back with sheer willpower. You have to create an environment where your nervous system finally lets go of its grip. And that begins not with sex itself, but with trust. With restoring the body's belief that it is safe enough to feel again. So how do you make your body feel safe? Not through thoughts or words, through repetition, through rhythm, through small, steady acts of softness. Think about this. When you step outside first thing in the morning, no phone in hand, no mental to-do list, just 10 minutes of walking, bare skin in natural light. Your brain receives a signal it's forgotten how to interpret. I'm here. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm awake. And I'm okay. Sunlight hitting your eyes in the early hours triggers a cascade of recalibration. Your internal clock resets. Your cortisol begins to sink. Your melatonin starts preparing for nightfall, not chaos. The body senses order, and when there is order, there is room for curiosity. Then comes breakfast, not skipped, not replaced with coffee, but made intentionally. A warm bowl of oats with banana, ground flax seed, maybe a spoonful of almond butter, a handful of berries. This isn't health food for the sake of being good. This is hormonal communication. Your blood sugar stabilizes, your mood stays steady. Your cells say, I'm nourished. And that's the kind of state in which desire can safely return. Around midday, you pause. 10 minutes, just to breathe, really breathe. You sit up tall, close your eyes, one hand on your chest, one on your belly. You inhale through your nose slowly until your belly rises, hold it gently, then exhale with purpose. Repeat. That's it. Just this, a quiet return to the breath, begins shifting the entire rhythm of your nervous system from tension to restoration. You are sending your body consistent messages. I'm not in a rush. I'm not under threat. I don't need to shut down. I'm listening. These aren't big gestures, but in a world of constant stimulation, they are revolutionary. They are healing. And they are how your body begins to believe it is allowed to feel again. Desire is never about performing. It is about arriving. And when the body senses a return to groundedness, to slowness, it starts to unlock places you thought were gone. You begin noticing details again. The softness in someone's voice, the warmth in a passing glance, the weight of a hand on your arm. And then, one day, quietly, you want to reach back. Not because you're trying to get your libido back, but because you've made enough room for it to return on its own. You don't have to fight for your desire. You have to make space for it. The same way we make space for sleep, for creativity, for joy. You cannot summon it, but you can call it home. And you do that by staying close to the body, through small acts, through real food, through movement that connects you to the ground. Pelvic rocks, deep lunges, long walks with no destination, through silence in the middle of a loud world, through remembering how to breathe like someone who trusts life again. Nothing needs to be added. You're not missing a piece. You're not too late. The truth is, everything that you are, everything you think you've lost, it's all still there, underneath the pace, underneath the pressure, waiting for that one moment of stillness when your body whispers, "You can come back now." There's a moment, soft and almost unnoticeable, when you begin to feel yourself again. Not in a dramatic wave of desire or a sudden craving, but in subtler ways. You move through your day and realize you're not as tense. You sit down to eat and actually taste the food. You feel a sense of space between your thoughts. Something is shifting. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when the body starts to believe that the emergency is over. Because for so long, your body has been in defense. It tightened the muscles. It held the breath. It dulled your senses so you could keep pushing through. And now, finally, it's learning to exhale. You may not have realized how much effort it took to survive on autopilot. The constant vigilance, the shallow sleep, the meals that never nourished, the numbness that disguised itself as fine. But your body has always known. And the moment you slow down, feed it truthfully, move it with kindness, and listen without judgment, the body begins to remember how to feel. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but slowly, like something long frozen starting to thaw. That warmth? That's life returning. And here's the miracle. Your libido never truly left. It was buried, covered by years of artificial rhythms, of convenience over care, of speed over stillness. But it didn't die, because the body is not mechanical. It is cyclical, seasonal, alive. And desire is one of its purest languages. You are not a machine. You are not supposed to perform the same every day, feel the same every hour, or want the same things in the same way. That's not brokenness. That's nature. Hormones rise and fall. Energy shifts. Some days, you're rooted. Other days, you float. And in that ebb and flow, desire will have seasons. Sometimes it comes as a spark. Sometimes it's just a gentle awareness, a softness toward your own skin, a tenderness in your gaze, an openness. This is the place where healing lives. in reclaiming the natural rhythm you were born with, but forgot how to follow. So you keep tending to the simple things. You keep walking in the morning light. You keep choosing foods that came from the earth. You keep breathing like it matters, because it does. You keep saying no to things that pull you too far from yourself. And little by little, your nervous system resets. The world around you doesn't change, but your place in it does. Your sense of agency begins to return. You don't feel tossed by every demand. You're not constantly overstimulated. You start protecting your energy, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because you realize now how much it costs to ignore your own needs. And the more you honor yourself, the more desire starts to stir. Not as a goal, but as a natural side effect of balance. You begin to crave touch again, not just for pleasure, but for connection. You notice how a warm shower feels on your skin. You stop rushing through your routines and instead let your hands linger on your own body or someone else's with presence. You don't move to the next thing. You stay here, in this breath, this second. And that alone creates room for intimacy to grow. Because intimacy starts with attention, with presence, with choosing to stay instead of distracting, with feeling instead of avoiding. And that kind of attention begins with you. When you sit with your own sensations, hunger, fatigue, tension, longing, without trying to fix or change them, you send a message deeper than words. I'm here now. I won't abandon you. And that's what your body's been waiting for all along. There's no rush. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply returning. To rhythm, to breath, to blood flow, to softness, to safety, to yourself. It may take weeks, it may take months, but there's no timeline for reconnection, no schedule for rediscovery. The only thing that matters is that you stay close. Close to the small signals, the quiet truths, the needs that don't shout, but whisper. That's where your libido lives. Not in performance, not in pressure, but in presence. In the way you care for yourself when no one is watching. In the way you chew your food. In the way you place your feet on the floor in the morning. In the way you treat your fatigue not as a flaw, but as a teacher. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to feel again. And you don't have to force it. You only have to allow it. There are days when it still feels quiet. You've been eating better, sleeping more deeply, moving slowly, breathing consciously. And yet, desire hasn't come rushing back. And a small voice in your head begins to wonder, is this working? Am I doing something wrong? Maybe something inside me is broken for good? Those questions are normal. Every healing path winds through doubt. But know this, nothing in you is broken. The body doesn't break. It withdraws. It shuts down what's too vulnerable when it doesn't feel safe. And as you care for yourself, consistently, patiently, gently, it listens. It watches. It waits. It wants to believe you. It just needs more time. Desire doesn't come from effort. It doesn't come from pressure. It comes from presence. And presence is the hardest thing of all. We've been trained to live above our bodies, to prioritize logic over sensation, to analyze rather than feel. So when you start to slow down, eat whole food, sleep without your phone, breathe without rushing, the first feeling isn't always desire. Sometimes it's awkwardness, discomfort, even grief. You begin to notice how long it's been since you've truly touched your own skin. Not to fix it, not to criticize it, not to scrub it, but to greet it. The stomach you've ignored, the thighs you've hidden, the chest you've defended. They start to soften, not in shame, but in recognition. They begin to ask, "Are you really here this time?" And your answer isn't in a ritual or affirmation. It's in the way you stay. You stand in the kitchen, sunlight spilling across the floor. You chop vegetables slowly. You feel the cool of the tile under your feet. And you realize you're not rushing. You're not planning the next thing. You're simply in this moment. And this is where life lives. This is where your body begins to say yes again. Because at its core, sexuality is about presence. You cannot connect with another body unless you are connected to your own. Libido is not just arousal. It's a signal that you are living fully in your skin, that you are home. Try something small. Each night before bed, lie down without distraction. No phone, no TV, just stillness. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Inhale slowly, letting your belly rise. Exhale even slower. Do this with care, like you're holding something fragile. Because you are. You're holding your own return. You may cry. You may feel nothing. You may feel everything. Let it come. All of it is welcome. All of it is real. Sometimes libido returns not as lust, but as a wave of warmth when you're touched. A quiet longing when you hear someone's voice. A fullness in your heart when you remember that connection isn't just about intimacy. It's about aliveness. And as you stop trying to feel a specific thing, you start to feel everything. Fatigue, hunger, calm, tension, and slowly, subtly, longing. Not directed at someone else, not performed, but real, your own. This is not about getting back to normal. This is about learning how to be with yourself in a way you never have before. With patience, with devotion, with curiosity. And when your body senses you're no longer trying to push it into feeling something, when it senses that you're here for whatever arises, it begins to open. It doesn't need instruction. It only needs your attention. And desire doesn't ask you to move fast. It asks you to stay close, to eat food that came from the earth, to rest when you're tired, not when the calendar allows, to move not to change your body, but to wake it up, to hold yourself like you would a friend who just got home after years away. You don't need to fix anything. You only need to stay. Stay with the breath that slows. Stay with the touch that feels unfamiliar at first. Stay with the quiet that used to feel like emptiness, but now feels like potential. Your body is not waiting for you to become someone better. It's just waiting for you to be here, fully, softly, again. Eventually, there comes a point when you stop thinking about desire, not because you've given up, and not because it's fully back, but because something in you no longer needs to search. You wake up and move through your day without constantly measuring how you feel. You stop asking, "Is it here yet?" and begin noticing what is here. A clearer breath, a softer gaze, a body that no longer flinches at stillness. That's the moment when something starts to change. Not loudly, not like a firework, but gently, like mist returning to a field at dawn. You start to feel again, not a rush of lust, but a reawakening of life. The way food tastes when you're truly hungry. The way a hand feels when it rests on your back, and you don't pull away. The way your own skin feels under the warmth of a towel or the morning sun. Desire doesn't need to be hunted. It needs to be trusted, because it never really left you. It just went quiet. It went underground, like a seed in winter, not dead, just waiting for conditions to soften, for warmth to return. And as your body feels safer, less watched, less demanded of, it starts to bloom on its own. You stop needing to feel anything in particular, and so you begin to feel everything. The cool of the air on your neck, the rhythm of your own pulse in your fingertips, the way silence starts to feel full, not empty. This is the part of the journey no one talks about, the part where nothing grand happens, and yet everything does. Because when you stop searching for desire like a lost object and instead nurture the ground, it grows from rest, nourishment, presence, self-compassion. You realize desire was never a goal. It was a result, a symptom of something deeper, a life in alignment. You're not trying to be sexy. You're not trying to be wanted. You're simply alive, and that aliveness is magnetic. You're moving through the world with your eyes open, your heart unguarded, your breath slow and deliberate. You feel the pull of life not just in the bedroom, but in the kitchen, in the sunlight, in the way you let your body stretch when it needs to, instead of rushing to the next thing. And you begin to see that libido isn't separate from the rest of your being. It is your being. When you are fully here, not just surviving, but receiving. When your touch is an invitation, not a transaction. When your body is a partner, not a project. So you let yourself love again. Not just romantically, but love your own rhythms. Love your hunger. Love your mess. Love the curve of your fatigue and the fire of your curiosity. Love that you don't need to achieve arousal, but rather allow space for it to rise like breath, unforced, unmeasured, and entirely yours. There's no ceremony that marks your return. No moment where the world declares, you've made it. There is only this. You, lying in bed, no longer bracing. You, standing in the mirror, no longer judging. You, holding someone's hand. Not because you should, but because you want to. Maybe that's how healing happens. Not with a bang, but with a softening. A quiet yes. A body that's no longer waiting for permission. And one day, without noticing, you'll feel it. Not the urgency to prove anything, but the peace of knowing that nothing was ever missing. You just needed to slow down enough to feel it again. You don't need to chase libido anymore. You just need to live well enough that it always knows where to find you.